It's no trick, because we're giving out the greatest treat of all, detailing all the spooktacular Westworld timelines on today's Nerdist news. Isn't that right, my pretty? Greetings, boys and ghouls! All Hallows' Eve is upon us, and as the veil between worlds grows thinner, we venture into the Nether Realms and return with a gift from our Dark Lords. Of course, by Nether Realms, we mean our parents' HBO Go account, and by Dark Lords, we mean Jonathan Nolan and Lisa Joy. There was a brand new episode of Westworld last night, and it was the perfect way to kick off Halloween if you were hoping to dress up as someone who has no idea what the F is going on. Yes, we're now officially halfway through the inaugural season of HBO's confoundingly Kubrickian hit series, and if you were hoping things were gonna start making sense, then you must be malfunctioning. Even as last night's episode helped confirm one of the biggest fan theories about Westworld by telling us pretty definitively that Williams' story and the Man in Black's story are operating on completely different timelines, Nolan, Joy, and their team of mystery makers decided to go ahead and confuse things even further. Now it looks likely that the dual timeline theory may be a bit too narrow, as fans are speculating that the series may actually be taking place in 3 or more separate eras of the park's existence. But don't worry, all you non-fans of non-linear storytelling, we're about to hit you with some Westworld cliff notes to help you make sense of it all. So, as we said in our first Westworld episode from a few weeks ago, the one big theory everyone seems to agree on is that Milquetoast William is actually the past version of the badass Man in Black. And if you had any doubts about that, then last night's episode should have put them all to rest. For starters, we see the Man in Black kill Lawrence in one scene only to have him reappear moments later in a William scene. This tells us with almost complete certainty that these scenes are happening on different timelines. But more importantly, we also hear William and his traveling partner Logan discussing the fact that the park is hemorrhaging money and that their company is going to buy it out. A few scenes later, we hear the Man in Black claim that the park still exists because of him. Combine that with what we've already heard about the Man in Black's VIP status within the park, and we begin to see a pretty clear picture being painted. Williams' company saves the park, which grants him the ultimate Westworld Fast Pass, and after 3 decades of unlimited access, he eventually evolves into the Man in Black. So okay, we've now firmly established the William timeline and the Man in Black timeline, which we can roughly say exists 30 years apart. But what about these other timelines? Here's where things get complicated. At least more complicated. Another fan theory that's been gaining a lot of traction in the last few weeks is that Bernard, the park's head programmer, is actually a host. Evidence for this includes pretty much every single conversation anyone on the show has had with him, such as in episode 2 when Ford tells Bernard, "I know how that brain of yours works." Get it? Because Ford built the robots and Bernard is a robot, so he would literally know how his brain works. Super subtle! Now people are saying that Bernard isn't just any old android, he's actually a replica of Arnold, Robert Ford's long-dead partner and the other founder of Westworld. There's lots of evidence for this as well, most prominently in last night's episode when we find out that Dolores hears commands from Arnold in her head. A few weeks back, we actually heard the voices in Dolores' head, and yeah, they did sound exactly like Bernard, implying that Arnold and Bernard are one and the same. Great, but what the heck does this have to do with establishing another timeline? Well, as Joanna Robinson points out in her recent Vanity Fair article, if Bernard is an exact copy of Arnold, then we could be seeing scenes where we think we're looking at Bernard when we're actually looking at Arnold. Of course, the trick would only work if he were interacting with another similarly ageless person like, say, I don't know, maybe Dolores? That's right. I really like this theory. This theory posits the one-on-one scenes we think we've been watching between Dolores and Bernard are actually one-on-one scenes between Dolores and Arnold, which would put them in an even earlier timeline than the Williams scenes. We'll call this the Arnold timeline. Also, important to note, we found out last night that Arnold wanted to destroy the park and was taking steps to accomplish that before he died. So while those scenes between Arnold and Dolores appear to be harmless system checks, they could actually be him planting seeds of destruction into her subconscious. So there you have it, 3 timelines, the Arnold timeline, the William timeline, and the Man in Black timeline. And looking at them all together, we may start to get a clearer idea of what the heck this show is all about. In the Arnold timeline, we see Arnold's initial steps to destroy the park. In the William timeline, we see that initial try fail. And in the Man in Black storyline, we see the park falling apart, perhaps for good this time. The grand story of Westworld could be a battle between its creators played out over 3 different timelines. Arnold, who wants to destroy it, and Ford, who wants to control it. Or, who knows, it could all change next week based on whatever we discover in episode 6. But what do you guys think? Do these 3 timelines check out? Are there even more that we're missing? And do violent delights actually have violent ends? Or is that just what people say to you to keep from having fun? Let's discuss. Join us today on Twitch for a very special What the Halloween edition of Nerdist News Talks Back. Along with chatting more Westworld, we'll be cracking into the finest What the Halloween-worthy videos. Check out the full first episode of Welcome to the Shadow Zone, starring Onyx the Fortuitous, aka Weird Satanist Guy, aka Weird Arby's Guy, aka Weird Gamer Guy, aka Weird Bizarre States co-host Guy, and aka my little buddy. Check us out at Nerdist.com, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more Nerdist news. What's a pretty bird? Pretty bird, pretty bird. Oh, little pretty bird.